In August 1971, at Lumpini Stadium in Bangkok, a Thai kickboxer named Urchun Surat made the mistake of publicly challenging Bruce Lee in front of 3,000 spectators who had paid to see a martial arts demonstration. Surat held a record of 47 undefeated fights, weighed 82 kilograms of dense muscle forged by kicking banana trees since the age of 8, and genuinely believed that Chinese kung fu was mere theater compared to real kickboxing. He declared in Thai, translated into English by the promoter, that Bruce Lee was a movie actor who had never tested his techniques against a true fighter. Bruce, who had arrived in Bangkok for an exhibition tour promoting his philosophy, Jeet Kune Do, did not respond with words. He took off the black silk jacket he was wearing, folded it carefully, handed it to his assistant Dan Inosanto, and walked barefoot toward the center of the ring. The fight that followed lasted 11 seconds and forever changed the perception of kickboxing regarding Chinese martial arts. The atmosphere. The Lumpini Stadium smelled of Thai food, nam man mui, liniment, decades of sweat accumulated on the canvases, and the thick smoke of cheap cigarettes floating in layers under the fluorescent lights. The wooden stands creaked under the weight of the crowd, mostly Thai men in open shirts betting money on fights that hadn't even begun. The heat was brutal even at 9 p.m., 34 degrees Celsius with humidity that made the air feel solid against the skin. Bruce Lee had arrived 2 hours earlier for the scheduled demonstration, accompanied by Dan Inosanto and Bob Wall, both advanced students assisting him in international presentations. The demonstration was meant to be simple: showcase Jeet Kune Do techniques, explain combat philosophy, and answer audience questions. But Urchun Surat, sitting in the third row with his training team, had other plans. Surat was no street provocateur seeking quick fame. At 28, he was a welterweight champion on the Lumpini circuit. He had knocked out 23 of his 47 opponents and had never been knocked down in his professional career. His master, a legendary trainer named Kru Som Chai, had taught him since childhood that Thai kickboxing was the superior combat art because it was tested in real fights every week, not in choreographed demonstrations. The challenge. When Surat saw the promotional posters of Bruce Lee all over Bangkok, he saw an opportunity to defend the honor of kickboxing against what he perceived as a Hollywood fraud. He had consulted with Kru Som Chai, who gave him permission for the challenge on one condition: do it publicly in front of witnesses so there would be no doubt about the result. Surat accepted and carefully planned the moment, waiting until Bruce finished his first basic demonstration. Bruce had shown his 1-inch punch, hitting a volunteer from the audience who flew back 3 meters while absorbing the impact in a padded shield. He had demonstrated hand speed by throwing 6 punches in less than a second against a heavy bag. He explained in English, translated into Thai by a local interpreter, that Jeet Kune Do was not a fixed style, but a philosophy of constant adaptation. The audience clapped politely but without true enthusiasm, clearly skeptical about whether these techniques would work against real kickboxers. Then, Surat rose from his seat, hopped over the ring ropes with the agility of years of athletic training, and stood in the center with his arms crossed. The entire stadium went silent. Bruce, who was drinking water in the corner, turned slowly to look at the intruder. He showed no surprise or fear, only quiet curiosity. Surat spoke into a microphone tossed to him by a teammate. The interpreter translated nervously. "Bruce Lee, I have seen your movies, I have seen your demonstrations. All very nice, very fast against bags that don't hit back. But I have never seen you fight a real kickboxer. I am a Lumpini champion. 47 fights, 47 wins. I challenge you here now in front of all these witnesses. Prove your kung fu works against real kickboxing or admit you are just a movie artist." The crowd exploded in shouts, half supporting Surat, half shouting that this was a sign of disrespect. The event promoter entered the ring trying to calm the situation, but Bruce raised a hand to stop him. He looked directly at Surat and said in English, "No rules, no pads until one surrenders or cannot continue." Surat nodded with a confident smile. Bruce took off his shirt. The 11-second fight. Urchun Surat immediately adopted the classic kickboxing guard. Weight on the back leg, hands high protecting the head, elbows tucked, ready to block or launch knees. His stance was the product of 20 years of training and hundreds of rounds of sparring. He began moving laterally, searching for an angle to launch his favorite weapon, a lateral low kick that had broken the legs of 6 different opponents. In contrast, Bruce adopted his characteristic lead-side Jeet Kune-do stance. Weight distributed for instant explosion in any direction, hands low but ready, appearing relaxed on the surface but with every muscle primed. He didn't move in circles. He stayed still, turning minimally to keep Surat in front of him. His eyes didn't watch Surat's hands or feet. They watched the center of mass, the chest, knowing the body cannot lie about the direction of an attack. After 5 seconds of mutual evaluation, Surat launched the first attack. It was a deep front push kick, aimed at Bruce's solar plexus. The technique was perfect. Bruce evaded it with a minimal sidestep, barely 15 centimeters, letting the foot brush past his side. He didn't counter yet. He was reading the patterns. Then Surat made the mistake that would end the fight. He launched his signature low kick, a roundhouse with the shin aimed at Bruce's support leg. The movement required a micro moment of preparation. Weight had to transfer fully to the standing leg and the hip had to rotate. Bruce saw the tell and exploded forward at the exact instant Surat committed his weight. He didn't wait for the kick to land. He closed the distance before Surat could fully extend the leg. His left hand trapped Surat's right arm, and his right foot swept the only supporting leg Surat had on the ground. It wasn't an elaborate technique, it was simple physics. He removed the support while Surat was completely committed to a one-legged movement. Surat fell hard, his back hitting the canvas with an impact that echoed through the silent stadium. Before he could process what happened, Bruce was over him, knee pressing into the solar plexus, his right hand in a spear shape just 2 centimeters from Surat's throat. He didn't strike. He just held the position, frozen like a paused action statue. Surat's eyes went wide with absolute shock. He had just been taken down for the first time in 47 fights by someone who weighed 64 kilograms, someone who attacked during his preparation, not during his execution. The aftermath. Bruce stood up and extended his hand to help Surat up. The Thai kickboxer accepted it automatically, still disoriented. The stadium erupted into chaotic noise. Kru Somchai, Surat's master, stood in the corner with an expression of deep recognition. He knew exactly what he had witnessed. Perfect timing and the exploitation of a fundamental weakness in traditional systems. Bruce approached Surat and spoke quietly. "Your low kick is excellent," Bruce said. "Powerful and devastating against opponents who play by the rules of kickboxing. But it has a weakness. It requires preparation. Your hip rose 2 centimeters, your shoulder moved back 1 centimeter. I wasn't waiting to see the kick. I was waiting to see the preparation. But I've used that kick 100 times, Surat said, confused. It always works. It works against opponents who respect the rhythm of I attack, you defend, Bruce replied. I do not respect that rhythm. I attack during your preparation. That breaks the pattern your brain expects. Kru Somchai joined them, speaking through the interpreter. My master says you have shown a weakness in our system he always suspected but never saw exploited so clearly. He asks if you would be willing to teach this to our kickboxers. Bruce looked at the old master with obvious respect. I did not come here to teach. I came to learn. For the next 2 hours, Lumpini Stadium was transformed from an arena of confrontation into a combat laboratory. Bruce showed Surat and the other kickboxers present how he was reading their setups, what cues he looked for, and how he timed his entry to intercept before a strike gained full momentum. Surat demonstrated the correct technique for the kickboxing clinch, how to control the opponent's head, and how to generate devastating power in knee strikes from zero distance. Kruzamkai shared shin conditioning exercises used in kickboxing, methods for hardening bones through controlled, repetitive impact. Bruce explained his philosophy of intercepting the fist, attacking during the opponent's preparation rather than waiting for the full strike. It wasn't a formal class. It was a genuine exchange between martial artists who recognized each other's mastery. The event promoter, initially terrified that the challenge would ruin the scheduled demonstration, realized he was witnessing something far more valuable: real collaboration between systems. Bob Wall, watching from the corner, would later recall, the most impressive thing wasn't that Bruce won in 11 seconds. It was that immediately after winning, he became a student. He asked Surat about the elbow techniques used in kickboxing. He asked Kruzamkai to show him the correct method for hardening shins. He had no ego about the fact that he had just defeated the local champion. He only had curiosity about what he could learn from the system that champion represented. Dan Inosanto added, Bruce always said that every combat system has unique strengths because they evolved in different contexts. Thai kickboxing developed elbow and knee techniques because fights in Thailand were historically brutal, where breaking bones fast was crucial. Chinese kung fu developed trapping and hand control because fights often involved multiple attackers where controlling without killing was important. No system is complete. They all have something valuable to offer. 3 months after the showdown in Bangkok, Arhan Surat traveled to Hong Kong to train with Bruce Lee for 2 weeks. He brought 2 fellow kickboxers from the Lumpini training camp with him. Bruce hosted them in his apartment and trained with them daily. He learned clinch techniques that he later incorporated into his film Enter the Dragon, which he was filming at the time. The scene where Bruce fights Bob Wall in the tournament includes elbow techniques that Surat specifically taught him. In exchange, Surat learned Western boxing footwork that Bruce had studied, Wing Chun trapping techniques, and the concept of the 5 ways of attack that Bruce had systematized in Jeet Kune Do. When Surat returned to Bangkok, his kickboxing style had evolved notably. He began incorporating more elaborate feints to hide his setups. He developed faster entries that didn't depend on visible preparation. He won his next 12 kickboxing fights, all by knockout, using combinations his opponents had never seen. Krazamkai, the elder master, also changed his approach to teaching kickboxing. After that night, he began to emphasize the importance of hiding preparations, making the first visible movement the strike itself, not the wind-up for the strike. He invited practitioners of other styles to train occasionally at his gym, something almost unheard of in Bangkok in 1971, where every camp was fiercely territorial. When Thai journalists asked him about the incident, he didn't deny or downplay it. Bruce Lee taught me that even the most proven kickboxing has weaknesses. Not because kickboxing is bad, but because it evolves to beat opponents who fight within the same system. When you face someone who doesn't follow your rules, your strengths can become weaknesses. That doesn't mean abandoning kickboxing. It means evolving kickboxing. This philosophy was revolutionary at the time, almost heretical in the traditional Thai kickboxing community. The story of the Lumpini Challenge spread quickly through the international martial arts circuit, but with multiple contradictory versions. Some said Bruce had knocked Surat out with 1 punch. Others said the fight lasted 5 minutes. Some claimed Surat was never a real champion, just a pretentious student. The truth, documented by the 3,000 witnesses present and several Thai journalists who wrote about the event the following week, was simpler and more impressive. An undefeated kickboxing champion challenged Bruce Lee expecting to expose Kung Fu as a fraud, and instead, discovered that his own system had fundamental weaknesses he had never considered. Not because kickboxing was inferior, but because it had evolved in a closed ecosystem where all fighters shared the same rules, the same patterns, and the same expectations. Bob Wall kept the entry ticket to Lumpini Stadium from that night and framed it in his Los Angeles office. The ticket cost 20 baht, approximately $1. The best dollar I ever spent, he would later say. I witnessed the exact moment where traditional combat began to transform into modern mixed martial arts. Bruce wasn't fighting Kung Fu against kickboxing. He was demonstrating that the future of combat lies in absorbing the best of every system and discarding what doesn't work. That concept is obvious now in 2026, but in 1971 it was absolute heresy. Dan Inosanto added, Most people remember that Bruce won in 11 seconds. I remember that he spent the next 2 hours learning from the kickboxer he had just defeated. That's what made him special. Not the ego of winning, but the humility to remain a student. Bruce Lee died in July 1973, less than 2 years after the encounter in Bangkok, at the age of 32, under circumstances that still generate controversy. Arhan Surat continued fighting kickboxing until 1978, retiring with a record of 63 wins and 2 losses, both by split decision in extremely close fights. He was never knocked out, never dominated on the floor, except for those 11 seconds in 1971. He became a coach, eventually opening his own gym in Bangkok called the Lumpini JKD Hybrid Camp, the first gym in Thailand to explicitly teach a blend of kickboxing and Jeet Kune Do. When students asked him about Bruce Lee, he always told the full story without embellishment or minimization. He defeated me in 11 seconds because I saw the fight as an exchange of kickboxing versus kung fu techniques. He saw the fight as a problem to be solved using whatever tool worked. That difference in perspective was more important than any difference in technique. Krazamkai died in 1989 at the age of 84, having trained kickboxing champions for 53 years. At his funeral, Surat spoke about how his master had evolved after that night at Lumpini. Before Bruce Lee, my master taught kickboxing as a religion. After Bruce Lee, he taught kickboxing as a science. The difference is that religion is dogma that isn't questioned. Science is knowledge that is constantly tested, refined, and improved. Krazamkai became a combat scientist instead of a guardian of kickboxing tradition. That made his students much more dangerous. This philosophical transformation was the true legacy of those 11 seconds, more important than who won or lost. 11 seconds. That was the time it took for a 300-year-old combat system to discover it had fundamental blind spots. 11 seconds that transformed the career of an undefeated champion from an arrogant adversary into a humble student. 11 seconds that initiated collaboration between systems that had historically seen each other as mutually exclusive rivals. 11 seconds that proved the future of combat isn't in rigidly defending the purity of your style, but in constantly absorbing what is useful from all styles. And 53 years later, every MMA gym in the world trains exactly that philosophy. Kickboxing for striking, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the ground, wrestling for takedowns, boxing for hands. No tribes, no blind loyalties, only the constant question, does this work? And if anyone asks where that mentality began, the answer lies in a sweltering stadium in Bangkok on an August night, where a 64 kilograms man took down an 82 kilograms kickboxing champion and then immediately asked him, "Can you teach me your elbow technique?"